Have you ever wondered about the life cycle of our sun? Just like any other star in the cosmos, our sun follows a fascinating journey from birth to death. This journey is filled with a series of distinct and awe-inspiring phases that showcase the incredible forces at work in the universe. Our sun begins its life as a part of a vast cloud of gas and dust known as the Protosolar Nebula. From there, it evolves into a protostar as gravity heats and compresses the core of this nebula. It then transitions into the main sequence phase, where it spends most of its existence, converting hydrogen into helium to light up our skies. As the sun ages, it enters the red giant phase, shedding its outer layers and eventually leaving behind a white dwarf. Ultimately, in the distant future, our sun will cool down to become a black dwarf, no longer emitting light or heat. Let's journey together through the cosmic lifespan of our magnificent sun. Our sun's life began in a vast cloud of gas and dust, known as the Protosolar Nebula. This nebula was not just any ordinary cloud but a cosmic concoction brimming with hydrogen and helium, sprinkled with trace amounts of other elements. Imagine this nebula as a celestial soup, primed and ready to cook up a star. In this cosmic kitchen, the secret ingredient is gravity. It's gravity that starts to stir the pot, pulling the nebula towards its center. As it does, the gas and dust start to get to know each other a bit better, compressing and heating up. This process is like the preheating stage in our stellar recipe, setting the stage for the next phase in the sun's life. And just like that, from a nebulous cloud of gas and dust, the life of our sun began. It's a story that's played out countless times across the cosmos, and it's just the beginning of our sun's epic journey. As gravity continued to pull the nebula inwards, our sun entered its infancy, known as the protostar phase. This is a fascinating period where the protosolar nebula, a vast cloud of gas and dust, is drawn toward its center by the force of gravity. As this process unfolds, the core of the nebula begins to heat up and compress. This gravitational collapse marks the onset of the protostar phase. It's like the universe's version of a baby's first steps, a major milestone in the life of a star. The gas and dust are continually pulled inward, causing the core to heat up further and compress even more. This phase is an essential step in the birth of a star. It's a cosmic pressure cooker where the ingredients for a star are being prepared. The heat and pressure from the collapsing nebula are setting the stage for the next significant phase in the sun's life. From a protostar, our sun was about to enter its longest and most stable phase. As pressure and temperature reached a critical point, our sun entered its prime, the main sequence phase. This phase is the heart of a star's life, where it spends the majority of its existence. So, what's happening during this prime time of stellar life? The core of the sun is a hotbed of activity. Here, the process of nuclear fusion takes place. This might sound complex, but at its core, it's a relatively simple process. Hydrogen atoms, under extreme pressure and heat, come together to form helium. This process, known as fusion, is like a stellar dance, where hydrogen atoms join in a cosmic embrace to become helium. But this dance isn't just for show, it's a source of incredible energy. You see, when hydrogen atoms fuse to form helium, a small amount of matter is converted into pure energy. This energy radiates out from the core, passing through the sun's various layers until it reaches the surface. And then it's emitted as light and heat. That's the sunlight that warms our planet, helps plants grow and gives us beautiful sunny days. This process of nuclear fusion, the conversion of hydrogen into helium, is the heartbeat of our sun. It's what gives the sun its shine, its warmth, and its life. And it's been doing this for about 5 billion years. This is the phase we find our sun in today, steadily shining for billions of years. And it's expected to continue this way for about 5 billion more. So here's to our sun in its prime, and the stellar show it provides us every day. Eventually, the hydrogen in the core will run out, and our sun will enter its twilight years as a red giant. Just imagine, the sun, our dependable beacon of light and warmth, has been burning bright for approximately 5 billion years. But as with all things, the sun too will undergo an inevitable transformation. As the core depletes its hydrogen fuel, it will begin to shrink. But it's a curious thing about stars. Even as the core contracts, the outer layers of the sun will expand dramatically. The sun in this phase will swell to an enormous size, morphing into what we call a red giant. This won't be a subtle change. The sun's outer layers will expand so much that it will encompass the orbits of the innermost planets, including our very own Earth. A profound shift indeed, the sun's surface will cool down, giving it a reddish appearance, hence the name red giant. This phase in the sun's life cycle is a significant one. It marks the end of the sun's main sequence life and ushers in a period of instability and change. It's the sun's twilight years, a dramatic shift from the steady, predictable phase it spent most of its life in. However, despite the potential doom that the red giant phase suggests for our planet, it's important to remember that this is a natural part of a star's life cycle. The sun, like all stars, is an evolving entity, ever-changing, ever-amazing. In this phase, our sun becomes a stellar giant, a sight to behold. As a red giant, the sun will shed its outer layers into space, leaving behind its core. This dramatic process is a spectacle of cosmic proportions. The outer layers, comprised mainly of hydrogen and helium, are propelled into the cosmos, creating a vibrant shroud of gas and dust known as a planetary nebula. This nebula is not a planet but rather a cloud of ionized gas that glows in the dark abyss of space, painting a breathtaking picture in the cosmic canvas. But what's left behind? What remains in the wake of this celestial shedding is the sun's core. This core, now exposed, transforms into what we call a white dwarf. This is a dense, hot, stellar remnant that emits a faint, ghostly glow. Despite its diminutive size, a white dwarf carries a significant amount of mass, about half the mass of the sun packed into a volume roughly the size of Earth. In this phase, the sun's life as a nuclear furnace is over. It no longer possesses the heat and pressure needed to sustain nuclear fusion, yet it still holds a considerable amount of thermal energy. That's why it's hot and glowing. However, without the means to generate new heat, it begins to cool and dim over time. This cooling process is a slow and gradual one. It takes billions of years for a white dwarf to cool from its initial temperature of hundreds of thousands of degrees to a chilly background temperature of space. The white dwarf phase is the sun's penultimate stage, a poignant testament to its past glory and a quiet prelude to its final fate. As we journey through the universe, we can observe the death throes of stars, the ejection of their outer layers, and the emergence of their white dwarf cores. These events remind us of the grand drama of stellar evolution, a narrative written in the language of physics and chemistry and enacted on a cosmic stage. The sun, now a white dwarf, continues to cool and dim over time. This is a tale not of death, but of transformation, as the sun evolves from a vibrant main sequence star to a fading white dwarf, and eventually, towards its final destiny. In the far, far future, our sun will meet its final fate as a black dwarf. This stage in the life of our sun is as poetic as it is profound. After spending billions of years as a white dwarf cooling and dimming, the sun will finally lose all of its remaining heat. This cooling process is slow, almost unimaginably so. Over the course of countless eons, the once fiery heart of our solar system will grow cold, its brilliant light fading until it's no more than a shadow of its former self. The white dwarf will transform into a black dwarf, a celestial body that no longer emits light or heat. It's a silent, solemn end to a star that once blazed with such ferocity, it nurtured life on a small planet in its orbit. And so, after a journey spanning billions of years, our sun's life comes to a quiet end. From a nebulous beginning to a peaceful end, the sun's life is a cosmic journey of change and evolution. It all commences with the Protosolar Nebula, a vast cloud of gas and dust, eventually collapsing under gravity to form the Protostar. As the pressure and temperature rise, our sun enters the main sequence, where it spends the majority of its life radiating energy by fusing hydrogen into helium. Inevitably, the hydrogen depletes, leaving the sun to expand into a red giant, engulfing the inner planets. During this phase, the sun sheds its outer layers, giving birth to a planetary nebula. The remaining core, now a white dwarf, continues to cool and dim, no longer capable of nuclear fusion. In the distant future, this white dwarf will fade into a black dwarf, no longer emitting light or heat. Next time you look up at the sun, remember the grand cosmic journey it's on, and marvel at the wonder that is the life cycle of a star.